this is really interesting because wallpaper is typically a graphic design assignment. And we're not graphic designers. So I remember sitting in the living room looking around saying to Malika, well, what would we have on the wall? Or what do we decorate with, right? How do we decorate our room? And what I noticed is that every room was full of little objects from our travels. And I think that's, for us, that's a way of being in touch with the rest of the world. And each one of those objects tells a story. And so there's this kind of accumulative narrative that was so exciting. It was like, let's just take these objects and throw them on the wall. And that's,
it's awesome.
Here you have it.
Can we hear about a couple of your favorites? If you're allowed to have favorites, I don't know.
This one right here is something that we got in Rwanda 3 years ago when we traveled.
We were going gorilla trekking at Gorillas National Park.
That's awesome.
And so, for me, this kind of African statuary is a tradition in African American culture, right? We're collecting these objects to connect back to a kind of mythical place where we may or may not be from. And so to be on the continent and find this lady in our hotel room, which by the way had no heat.
That's true.
We found her sort of radiating life for us, And I don't know, there's something about ancestry here that ties into our work around spirituality at a larger kind of ancestors project, where we're thinking about ancestry in a kind of larger way, trying to imagine not just a direct descendancy, but who's inspired us, who's influenced us, who's made us who we are. So.
And another one of our favorites over here is the hand of Fatima, which in reality is only this big.
Okay.
A lot of the objects are really miniature.
Okay.
So part of the process of creating the wallpaper was about obviously photographing everything, composing it onto a big panorama like what you see behind us, and then finally for the installation, taking it off the wall again to create a larger than life experience.
Wow. Yeah, we wanted the people to be really, confronted with the objects, kind of see them at their own scale and not be able to ignore them, but then to notice all the details of them, right? So here in the light and shadow, you see the kind of sculpted hand. The hole is actually where you would place an incense stick.
There seems to be so much emotion in your work. How do you think of emotion and materiality? How do those connect for you?
That's a funny question because, as a designer, I'm never designing for emotion. I can't predict what you're going to feel, right? We're not really, I don't want to say we're not interested in what you're going to feel.
Leave it open.
Yeah, but we leave it open. And we're never designing for materiality either. We're really, material is a tool, color is a tool. We try to lead with an idea, with a concept. And then similarly, we're not designing for form. We try to lead with a concept and a big idea. And then as we begin to focus that, right, the right material comes along, the right form comes along, and you start to feel the right thing, ideally. It leaves us a lot of room to kind of play and not try to repeat ourselves and have a specific style or form. But, a lot of people see our work and they recognize us, but they don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily look like the last project.
This idea of making the immaterial material, using form to enclose form. What is that philosophy? I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah. The statement of making the immaterial material, it comes from our project Spirit Houses, where we were really wondering during the pandemic, when we couldn't gather as communities and we couldn't mourn, really wondering how do we deal with spirituality in the contemporary home. We all have a spiritual background and it's part of our lives, but I think in contemporary culture it's sort of frowned upon to say that you believe this or you believe that. And I think in other places in the world, they're more in touch with nature, they're more in touch with history, and they're more in touch with their own ways of being in the world, which, it's akin to wisdom for me. And we want to kind of begin to address these spaces where design doesn't normally exist. Why not? Why aren't we designing for spirituality? And so, the immaterial factor is something. It's what we can't touch, but we know it's there. Most of the universe is composed of something we can't touch, but we know it's there, and so we can begin to address that because it connects us all.